Well, I was quite surprised by this one. On this episode of Rotten Reviews, I'm going to take a look at the 2018 film Time Trap. It is a straight to Netflix release. That's where I first saw it. That's where I watched it. That's probably where everybody else has watched it as well. It has a 60% on the tomato meter and a 71% on the audience score. Not very many people have critiqued this or probably seen this at this point. It is straight to Netflix. There are only 10 critics in that tomato meter count, and there are only 520 audience reviews as of right this moment, January 8, 2020, on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, 71%, I'll say I agree with that. That's what I feel is fair. That's what I felt of this too. I think this actually rises up to the 3-star level, and that very much that sounds even funny for me to say that because this in all regards is like a B movie type affair. It's not high budget. It doesn't have actors that I recognize in anything else. They're completely unknown to me. Completely. I don't even think I've seen their faces anywhere before that I can recall. And yet I'm going to agree with that 71% audience score. I was very much surprised. I didn't know anything about it going into it, and I watched it all the way to the end, and I was involved in the story. I was entertained, and it didn't end predictably exactly where I thought it would. At a couple of points I thought I knew how it would go, but no, I was wrong, and I was very much surprised that I enjoyed this thing. Now let's get right into the audience reviews and find out what other people thought. I will entertain all levels of reviews because there just aren't a whole lot, and I don't consider this rotten. This might actually be a contrarian episode of Rotten Reviews for me. I'm contrarian in that it's not rotten, but I do agree with the actual audience score. So 4 days ago, 5-star review. Started a bit slow, but by the end of the movie I was literally on the edge of the couch. I don't accept a sequel, but I wish they would have answered some key questions like how many years have passed and why did the future 8-foot guy come down there? Was he looking for the kids or the fountain? Yeah, this film doesn't answer everything. It leaves you asking some questions, but not in a bad way, not in a way that you feel like you weren't entertained, and then you still feel like this concluded in a nice way. Although it did leave things unanswered, you kind of had to use your imagination to fill in a little of those answers. Because they were almost like subplot answers. This film didn't have a running time that it could get too far along with plot complications. It's a very simple plot. A group of young adults are stranded in a cave in which inside that cave time passes at a much, much slower rate than it does outside, and everything is built on that premise. The plot's a little more involved in that, but that's the actual premise of it. Now, this has only a 1 hour and 27-minute runtime, so like I said, you don't have a lot of runtime for side plots and more complications. If this had been made into a two-hour film, I think it would have been rotten. I think it would not have worked because there's enough in the premise and the way it was done to make it fit with the runtime and be satisfying. If I had to give this a star review, like I said, I would give this 3 stars. 1.5 stars 4 days ago. This movie had an interesting concept. I'm one of those that really enjoy a good sci-fi mind twist, and this movie was very intriguing. Unfortunately, that's really all they had, a good concept. The execution was very poor. The creators went into this with an intriguing idea, but with no plan, direction, or a way to end it. It felt like there was a lot of confusion on the director's part regarding the tone and direction of the movie. 1 minute it felt like suspenseful horror to action, caveman, alien battles. Well, yeah, it kind of turned into an alien thing at the end. It went in a direction I wasn't expecting. But yeah, consider that a spoiler. If you're watching this and you wanted a spoiler-free review, then I'm sorry. I just kind of spoiled everything for you. But, oh well, that's the way it goes. Yeah, it did kind of start off one way and lead into something else, but not abruptly, not in a way that was bad or off-putting. I found some of the visuals towards the end on the explanation of what was going on with the Fountain of Youth thing. I thought that was kind of fascinating, but it obviously didn't have the runtime or budget to get further into that epic visual where you saw everything from cavemen to conquistadors to Western cowboys all fighting each other in almost a frozen frame of what was going on around the Fountain of Youth. It sounds very crazy for me to describe that, but the movie actually, it made sense in the context of the movie. And um, yeah, this movie just didn't have the budget or the runtime to go deeper into that, but it was still satisfying the way the story ended to me and to a lot of others, apparently. 3.5 stars, December 31, 2019. Fascinating premise and some good tension makes for an enjoyable hour and a half. 2 stars, pretty surface level stuff. 3 stars, slow to develop and seems to miss some real opportunities with the concept. Was expecting something more like Michael Crichton's Timeline. Actually, this was far more enjoyable than Michael Crichton's Timeline. I've done a rotten review on that film. Timeline had a much bigger budget, big stars, had everything going for it, and it failed compared to this film. This film was actually enjoyable. I would not sit through Michael Crichton's Timeline again for any reason, but this one was very enjoyable to me, and it was satisfying in a way the Timeline wasn't. You also went in with lower expectations because this was a straight to Netflix movie, so you didn't expect it to compete with Timeline. But I'll just flat out tell you that I enjoyed this more than that Timeline movie, no question about it. 0.5 star. Wow, that sucked. Terrible acting, horrible storyline, and ridiculous ending. How did this movie get 70%? Well, if you were expecting, a big giant Hollywood production, something that Timeline promised but did not deliver, then yeah, you'll be disappointed by this. But if you expect to see a Netflix movie that probably won't be that great, it's better than what you would be thinking. So it's very satisfying. 4 stars, December 2019. I went into this movie knowing it was going to be B-rated based on the cheesy title and synopsis I was provided. My expectations were low, but my feelings for the movie was subverted in a way I didn't expect. Bad actors and a cave with wacky time-dimensional stuff. Okay, I'm with it so far. But then there's a futurist astronaut fighting a caveman who showed up randomly. And what's that? A giant triangle spaceship looking thing in the sky, huh? Oh, hey, there's not enough in the movie, so let's throw in sea monsters. Yeah, this reviewer's not exactly wrong, but the way he's describing it is not exactly right either. And I'll notice that he's leaving a 4-star review. I'm not going to click on the show more. I never do. I think in one paragraph you should be able to get the point across, but he's saying 4 stars anyway, so 0.5 star, December 2019. It was the stupidest movie that my family has ever watched. When the most memorable line is fart party from a character named Furby, well, nuff said. How did this movie ever get released? I give it 0.5 star only because of the title, which succeeded in getting us to waste our time. Again, this reviewer's not exactly wrong, but he's not exactly right either. Yes, there's a character called Furby. It's a nickname. Yes, there is somebody has a password on their wireless, which is fart party. Yeah, it's not really a big thing in the film, but it is something that a stupid kid would make as a password on his Wi-Fi. So he's not wrong, but the context isn't there. 5 stars, December 2019. Movie was so much fun to watch, and I would love to see a sequel or even a prequel or both. I don't think that could work. I like this concept, yeah, but I don't think there should be. I don't think this concept should be done as a sequel. This would probably work as a big budget Hollywood movie, but it would have to be more complicated, and yeah, a lot of it would have to be more thought out and well put together than this. It couldn't be as simple as this. But please don't try to do a sequel. It's guaranteed rotten. I mean, if you do, we're going to talk about it on Rotten Reviews, I would think, if it goes straight to Netflix. So on one hand, I don't want to see a sequel. On another hand, it might be interesting to see something completely rotten and bad that I would have something to talk about. Depends. It really depends what I'm looking for, I guess. December 12, 2019, 3 stars. An ambitious indie time warp jaunt with just enough cheese to make it worth the watch. Yeah, it's cheesy, but it's not cringeworthy bad. It's just got enough interesting stuff to keep you interested in finishing it. And I was with it the whole way, wanting to see where this thing went, and it was mission accomplished in that regard. Whoever directed this, they still accomplished their mission, even though if it went straight to Netflix, I still watched it and I enjoyed it. 2.5 stars, December 11, 2019. This movie started out great with high expectations, as I like time travel movies, but got worse as it went along. First of all, there was inconsistencies in the time travel, which was never explained, and then the acting got worse as well. Once the characters finally figured out what was going on, they were perfectly calm about it. Wouldn't most people be freaking out and be like, wow, we got to get out of here now? They were like, oh well. And then the ending was poor and did bad job explaining what was going on. Actually, I don't agree with that. By the time the characters realized what was going on, not only was it hard for them to believe, but they already realized that if it were true, they were so screwed it didn't matter anymore. Really, they were at that point. And they were also tired as hell. I didn't find it off-putting, their reaction to it. What I did find a little off-putting is a big plot problem, a problem with the design of this cave. We are shown that there's more than one entrance into this cave. The characters that we follow, the young adults, they go down through rappelling down a hole, which is fine. And they don't have the rope or the equipment to climb back out of the hole, which is fine. But we are shown earlier in the film that there's another entrance to the cave in which you don't need a rope. You can kind of walk down into it on a slope. And they could have found that entrance and walked out at some point in the film, and they didn't. And from what was shown of the cave, they should have easily stumbled across that other exit or entrance, and that would have got them out of there much sooner. So I found that a big problem in the plot. But if you forgive that plot problem, then the rest of it's okay. But yeah, that's a problem for me, that one part. And again, the reviewers aren't mentioning that, though. The 1-star reviewers, they're not talking about that yet, but let's move down and see. 5 stars, December 6, 2019. I loved this film, an absolute must-see for sci-fi lovers. Well, it's not all that. 3 stars, it peaks up at 3 stars, sure, but it's not all that. This is not any 5-star film. Don't believe that. 2 stars, December 6, 2019. I liked the plot line, thought it was compelling, but got hung up on some meh acting with wooden dialogue and an outdated, mildly misogynistic script. There's no ending, it just stops. It could have been an okay one-season series. It's clear that they gave up rather than write their way through the enormous idea they had. I'll kind of agree with that. The ending is satisfying, but you can tell that they didn't have a lot of places to go, and they didn't have a lot of time to backtrack in their script writing to go someplace else. But they did a very good job ending it the way they did, making it satisfying, despite the fact that they kind of painted themselves in a corner in a few ways. Wooden dialogue and outdated misogynistic script. I don't get that at all. Not at all from this. It didn't strike me like that at all. Wooden dialogue, no. I've seen a lot of Hollywood movies with worse dialogue than this. Hell, I just did a rotten review on one called The Seventh Son, or Seventh Son. And it has way worse dialogue than this, and that's a big budget Hollywood production, so I disagree. But yeah, for the ending, yeah, it didn't, it felt like something that could be continued with a TV series. Maybe it was originally designed to be a TV show. It could have been. However, I was impressed that they were able to bring it all together at the end the way they did. I say it's completely satisfying. 1 star, December 5, 2019. 1 full star for the concept. Let's just say the rest is exactly the reason why Mystery Science Theater 3000 made a comeback. No, I disagree. You're much more likely to find a lot of different Hollywood movies of recent years in that Mystery Science Theater 3000. They're that bad. This one, nah. There's nothing in it that's laugh out loud bad. There's nothing in it that's cringeworthy. There's nothing in it that's B-movie, you know, where props are falling apart or cameras are shown in frame for stretches. None of that stuff that you would put in a Mystery Science 3000 episode. No, I completely disagree. It wouldn't work. Half a star, December 3rd. Absolute trash of a movie. This was without a doubt one of the worst movies I have ever seen in my life. The first 20 minutes weren't too bad. I had a few critiques, but figured it would get better if I kept watching. I was completely wrong because it got 100 times worse. That entire ending was pure garbage nonsense. Reading the description, I thought this was going to be another Interstellar, one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. Nope, doesn't even come close. Save yourself a headache and don't. Okay, a few problems I have with this review. First of all, from the critiques, well, I didn't go into it reading critiques before I watched it. That's a mistake on a lot of films. I just watched it first. Yeah, the ending was pure garbage nonsense. Well, if you expected it to be something else, then maybe I agree with that. Like it diverted into a sci-fi concept at the end from something that wasn't. So I kind of agree and disagree with that. Now, the problem I have is this reviewer brought up Interstellar. That's a mistake because, for one, Interstellar as a film, it was a good film. From a story point of view, Interstellar was fine. From an entertainment point of view, to me, Interstellar was weak and it felt boring, and that was its biggest problem. Not enough to make it rotten, but if I had to pick a flaw for Interstellar, it was that it bored me. I have absolutely no feeling to watch it again, and I've had many opportunities. The first time I watched Interstellar, I was really excited for it, all the hype and everything, the actors involved, and then when I saw it, I was just left bored, and I've never watched it since. So to me, it was boring. This movie was not boring like that. I'm sorry, it was not. And if you expected this to be another Interstellar, exactly how? When I turned on Netflix and saw this and read the description, nothing about it was giving me the feeling of Interstellar at all. It has nothing to do with space travel. So I don't know what the hell this reviewer's talking about. She's talking about, Kathy B. She's totally out to lunch, in my opinion. I'm sorry, she just is. 2.5 stars. Like most movies with time travel, there are plot holes / mistakes. There's a B-movie feel to this flick, and the characters act like the teenagers in a horror movie. They are slow to realize what should be obvious and have odd decision making. I enjoyed it because I love time travel movies even when they are done badly, but I cannot recommend this movie. Okay, but you still gave it 2.5 stars. I say 2.5 stars is fair. 2 stars. Plot is average. Acting is some of the worst acting I've seen in a film with regard to common sense. You're always logically 3 steps ahead throughout the movie. Do not waste your time. Yeah, the average audience member is going to have it figured out long before the people in the plot do. But again, put yourself in their shoes. Would you have thought that far ahead? Would you have said, oh, I know, we're trapped in some kind of time warp? No, it's too unbelievable. It would be your last conclusion when you've exhausted everything else. You just wouldn't jump to that, even though as an audience member, of course you would, because you're sitting outside the film in a seat watching it from an outside point of view. Of course you'll know what it is. But if you were in that situation, would you know? No, you would see all these clues that you easily put together as an audience member, but there's no way in hell in the real world you would think that was going on unless it was your last resort to think so. 4.5 stars, December 1. This is one of the best B movies I've ever seen. If you like sci-fi movies, this is a must-watch. I really hope they make a sequel. The chicks are smoking hot as well. The chicks are passably hot. They're not smoking hot, and they're not supposed to be smoking hot. Let's just say, yeah, I agree. It's one of the better B movies that I've seen on Netflix. No question about that. I was very much surprised. I was like 20 minutes into this, and I was surprised I still wanted to finish it. And I was surprised all the way to the end that I was still into this movie. But is it 4.5 stars? No, it's not. 2.5, 3 stars. 1 star, November 28. Toys with interesting concepts, but fails the execution. Ultimately, this film is contrived, and as the title suggests, is indeed a time trap. Yeah, cute, very cute on that. 1 star, this is an awful movie, a major waste of time, a pathetic, totally implausible plot, really, really bad script writing that's unloaded on some really bad actors. I could go on, but I think you get the point. I didn't find the acting bad. Again, they're no-name actors. I wouldn't know them from anything. I've never seen them before that I recall. But I didn't think they did bad jobs for this movie. I don't. 1 star, November 26th. The idea was awesome, but the plot, I feel insulted. What the directors thought their audience was capable of figuring out themselves. So many questions as to why the characters made their decisions. Very frustrating to watch. LOL. Had so much potential. I don't think the characters did things that were out of character, that didn't make sense. Again, I think it comes back to the part that we were shown early on that the cave had an easy access point that you could actually walk out of without climbing gear. And you could say that it was hard to believe that they didn't just choose to walk out. Like when they finally found the professor character they were looking for, well, he had entered through that easy to walk into entrance. So he should have told them, and they should have asked him at some point how he got in, because they knew he didn't rappel down like they did. And so, yeah, you can say that why didn't they just walk out? But the movie doesn't have them actually talking to him about that. He never tells them that. So you could say there's a plot hole there, but their decision making, well, they weren't climbers. Only one of the girls was an actual rock climber that could climb rocks without the aid of rope. The rest of them didn't have this skill. So would I try this? Would I try to climb out the way this girl did without a rope? No way in hell. I've been in situations like that on rocks like this. I wouldn't climb up or down. I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't even try to. I'd wait for help. There's no way I'd try this. It would be risking death. I'd rather just stay down in there and see if there's another option that pops up. I would explore the cave more. I'd explore the cave for days and days until I tried to climb out up that tunnel that girl was climbing out of. There's no way I would try that. It'd be certain death for me. There's no question. 4 stars, November 25, 2019. I agree with others. If you're not looking for an Oscar flick, this is a really enjoyable movie. 4.5 stars. This was a thoughtfully designed original script with so much lead up to an incredible concept. Yes, it did take a minute to get to the point, but it marketed to the teen scene as a prequel movie to a Netflix-backed binge-worthy series. I could see this making plenty of audiences drool for each episode. Regardless of whether this becomes more than this standalone, I'll probably watch again, this time with my kids. It's that good. Yeah, I think it's too late to make this into a TV show because it had an ending. But if this had been done from the beginning as some type of TV series, like a 8-episode, 10-episode series, it would have worked. It would have had to have more complications and etc. and characterization and better characters. I mean, better actors. You would have had to have used at least one more noteworthy actor for that recognition. But otherwise, for just a one-off movie, this was 2.5, 3 stars. Half a star, November 13, 2019. Let's talk about the magical ride that is the time trap. If you're not a time travel person but are into cowboys and Indians, cavemen and spacemen, then this is the roller coaster ride you've been waiting your entire life for. The acting in this movie will take your breath away as friends die and actors rejoice. The character development is like watching bread bake in the rain. By the way, this is a movie is also about alien abduction. The cast seems to enjoy learning everyone on Earth has perished and their adventure. That's not exactly right. What this reviewer is saying, he's got some of the stuff right, but the way he's presenting it is not the way it happens. So let's move on. 4.5 stars. Thought it would be a crappy low-budget movie, but it's not too bad. Good story, good acting. Could give more info in the future. Yeah, it kind of it shows you a lot of stuff from the future, but doesn't really go into it, so it kind of leaves you a little disappointed on that. But it wasn't supposed to be a sci-fi film, so when you get into the actual sci-fi, it doesn't go very far into that. 3.5 stars, solid movie, very graphically pleasing. I felt that the premise could have been explored a bit more in depth. The plot twists were smooth and abundant. However, the ending did feel a bit rushed. This is only a good thing, though, because it left me wanting more. I'd recommend it. 4.5 stars. November 9, 2019, interesting concept. Some of the acting wasn't the best, but I was eagerly waiting to see what happened. The ending was a bit anticlimactic in my opinion, but was still definitely worth the watch. 5 stars. I really enjoyed this movie. I want more. It seems like it can be a series from this point. I doubt that you could carry it straight into a series. If you started from the beginning, maybe. 4 stars. Just don't expect Shakespeare and you'll have a lot of fun watching this. 2 stars. If you watch this movie for an insight into time and space, look no further than the time of your day and space on your couch that you have wasted away to the universe. It's not that bad, really. It is dumb, but it's not that bad. 5 stars. Great movie. It's got a lot happening in one movie, but they try to fit as much as they can in one movie, thinking there would be one movie. Overall, they did great for the time and money they had. Love a new time travel movie. Wanting a second one. It's not all 5 stars, no. 1.5 stars. Few nice ideas that could have developed into cool movie. Instead, they turned into an illogical story where characters have no sense of preservation, facing a dangerous exploration with no precautions. No, I disagree. When I was that age, when I was in my very early 20s, 20, 21, I went into caves that were more dangerous than that, not climbing up and down, rappelling in that regard, but I actually crawled through crevasses that I had to be on my belly, and I had only an inch of room and had to turn my head sideways to get through it, and did so for long stretches of time exploring caves in the New Mexico area. And I was crazy, and that was completely stupid, and I would never do such a thing again. But I did far crazier things than most of these characters did in that young age. So I don't find it unbelievable at all that they would do stuff like this. 1.5 stars, you're saying. No precautions. Well, I did crazier stuff in cave-like settings and in actual caves. Crazier stuff than most of these characters did in this film. And I would never do it again. I'm not crazy. But I did it when I was 20 and 21. 1/2 star, November 4th, 2019. Continued to get more and more stupid. Couldn't turn it off soon enough. 3 stars. The movie was full of people who acted illogically. 20 and 20-year-olds. It doesn't actually say what their ages are. Some of them could be 18, 19. One of them certainly a kid. No, I've known personally friends of mine and myself, we've done crazier things than go into caves like this. 3 stars. The movie was full, yeah, illogical. Okay. They acted illogically, but it wasn't unrealistic or implausible. Let's put it that way. 1/2 star. Imagine a time version of the Goonies that kills Chunk, an innocent and funny kid, twice on camera within the first 30 minutes. Too violent and distasteful. The Goonies, no, it's nothing like the Goonies. Yes, there is one kid that would have probably fit into the story from the Goonies, but that's about the only similarity. I think, millennials, they keep bringing up the Goonies. For me, the Goonies was nothing. It was a very boring and stupid movie because I was already a late teenager when it was released. And I guess if you're a millennial, the Goonies, you're younger than me, the Goonies is some kind of great film because you were a little kid and it was made for you. But don't bring it up in regards to this. This has nothing to do with the Goonies. But I'll say it for the record. I think the Goonies was a very boring and stupid movie. This could be stupid, but I didn't find it boring. Let's move on. 3.5 stars, November 1, 2019. For those that like time-based sci-fi movies, this had an interesting plot and decent writing. The acting was great. The ending, however, was a bit of a letdown as they sort of phoned that in, but overall, I would recommend. So you've got people recommending it and people highly not recommending it. So you may have to actually watch you may actually have to watch this yourself on Netflix to find out, because somehow I think that it's one of those films that you're just not going to take anybody's word for it. 5 stars, the best sci-fi movies I've ever seen. 5 star, very funny movie, or very fun movie, original idea, can't describe the plot because of spoilers, very creative storytelling. Well, unfortunately, I already gave you spoilers, sorry about that. Sorry, but not sorry. 3.5 stars. Yes, it's a plot you have seen before, but the time travel is different than anything I've seen before, and I love to watch time travel plots. Initially thought it would only pass the time, but it gets more engaging as it goes. So by the end, it really held my interest. Sure, but not quite 3.5 stars. Peaks out at 3 stars. Half a star. The acting was pretty bad, but not awful, but bad. The plot was even dumber, and the ending was the dumbest of all. Please don't waste your time on this dud. So again, yeah, you're not going to be able to take anybody's word for it. You're just going to have to see it for yourself, I suppose. Um, like I said, I agree with the scores, and surprised the critics have it at 60%. Let's take a look down at the critics. What did the critics say? Why did they say it was fresh? In the moment, it's entertaining and chock full enough deliciously weird interludes, and it's impossible to be too harsh. I don't know what that's talking about. A progressively bonkers thriller. Its familiar retro vibe and almost end-to-end action left me feeling like it would be right at home on the Sci-Fi Channel, and I totally mean that in a good way. Time Trap offers viewers an intriguing premise supported by a solid ensemble cast that frequently entertains. Time Trap is a highly creative, populated, and relatable characters with a whip-smart script. Sadly, the very end of the movie undoes the tense atmosphere set up throughout. While it does not ruin the film, it does leave one a bit disappointed. Well, critics found things to like in this. Now, recently, people have alleged that critics are paid. They've been bribed by Netflix and etc. Well, there's only 10 of them here, so it's hard to believe that they just bribed these 10 people, and not a single one of them, not enough of them came along to just bump it down rotten. I don't know. It's just another thing out there that has been in and out of the news cycle, that there are allegations that Netflix has bribed critics. They didn't say it was just critics on Rotten Reviews. They said it was just critics in general. So there aren't that many critics here, so I'm guessing that's not the case here. But in any case, let's take a look on IMDb. I had IMDb already queued up because I thought maybe there weren't going to be enough actual audience reviews and I would have to switch over to IMDb to get some more. But no, there were plenty there. Now, IMDb has this at a 6.5. and it has 12,190 reviewers that gave stars. So wow, apparently the general normies out there consider this actually worth a watch. 6.5 out of 10 is not bad for a B movie that was not released in theaters and went straight to Netflix. That's pretty good. So I'll have to leave it at that. I'm going to say I agree with these scores, and yeah, I recommend it if you've got time on your hands, there's nothing else to do, and you don't have anything better to watch on Netflix. You can watch this and, give it a shot and go in. You might be surprised that this is actually pretty entertaining. And I will see you again on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.